Today I'm joined by one of my best friends, and the man whose transformation put RNT on the map, Shyam Kotecha. We've been fortunate to have been part of numerous transformations at RNT, but never have I seen one transformation have as much of an impact or a domino effect as Shyam's had. It'll always be the transformation that's closest to my heart, simply for what it did for us at RNT, and for how many people it inspired to take charge of their lives and transform. On this episode, we go through his journey and spend a lot of time talking training, the mindset behind real hard training, and why this is so important to build the physique you're after. If you're someone who's come out of a fat loss phase and you're wondering what's in store for you next, and why the next phase is even more important, this is an episode you won't want to miss. It was fun talking about training as much as we did here in this much depth, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. So tell me about this AeroPress coffee.
Well, it's a more concentrated form of coffee. It's a bit stronger. There's also less cleaning up for you guys. You know, if you hate cleaning up the cafetiere.
So why is it better than a cafetiere? Because you told me, you sent it to me in the post and said it's an absolute game changer. And I'm having my first AeroPress coffee as we record this now. And my first initial thought to that is very much like the coffee you get in a coffee shop.
I mean, it's
almost nicer coffee shops.
It's almost like a form of like a filter coffee.
Okay.
Good form of filter coffee. A lot stronger. If you like black coffee, this is the coffee for you. And it doesn't cost much either. It's only about 20 quid off Amazon. So it's a no-brainer really.
Yeah. Would you consider yourself a coffee snob?
Yeah, I think so. I think the more and more you do something, the more and more you like to have what everyone's talking about. And at work, this is the thing that everyone's using, what everyone's talking about. So I think for 20 quid, it just makes complete sense.
And any specific coffee brands you recommend?
I think this is where you can experiment a bit because, for example, for myself, I go to a place in Portobello Market.
Okay.
And I quite like quite darker tasting notes. So it depends on your taste. Some people prefer like the floral notes, whereas I'm more about the bitter kind of dark chocolate. That kind of taste. So it all kind of depends on what you prefer really. And this is where you can kind of experiment because you're not limited to one type of coffee, right?
Yeah. And speaking of dark chocolate, have you got any specific brands you prefer? I know I've got my favorites.
Quite like Godiva.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I know some people aren't really a fan of cream and blacks, but I still quite like that.
Yeah, I still find it a bit too creamy.
I think that's probably why I like it.
Yeah, because we all know you're a fatty at heart.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to say that, by the way, in case anyone's wondering, because I've known Shyam since I was 4. But before we go into his journey, and we've had Shyam on the podcast before in episode number 8. Obviously, his case study has been one of the most popular and relatable reads for anyone, and it's broken the internet on multiple occasions. But today I want to kick it off by talking about something Shyam's only got into in the last year, which is photography and essentially the birth of Skot visuals. Tell us more about how you got into fitness photography.
I think it's a good question. I think I've always had a passion for photography. It's an expression. It's a form of storytelling, just like writing is, I guess. But I also have a strong passion for fitness, and I think after going through the photo shoot myself, through my own experience, I realized why don't I combine my two passions and actually follow through and start to actually help people with the same process that I went through. And I think, for example, for myself, I remember sitting there before the photo shoot thinking, I'm not ready. Why am I doing this? And Akash really had to convince me to do that shoot. And I think looking back on it now, I think, I look back on that shoot and I think I'm so glad I did that because I think with a photo shoot with fitness photography specifically and why I did it is because it does allow you to capture, the kind of one of the best memories of your life. Some people would, like wedding photography, but fitness for me is something I can relate to and something, I can really add value with.
Yeah. And who was your first experiment with?
I did a few experiments, and it was my brother, really. No, my brother my brother did his own transformation with RNT too, and I said to him, "Come on, let's go to the gym and let me take some photos with you." And he absolutely loved it. And it was because with photography, it's all about the eye. So people that don't really get fitness, and you get loads of photographers out there who are almost generalists. They do loads of different things, and that's great. But I think with fitness specifically, if you go to the gym and you look at physiques and you are genuinely passionate about it, you can develop an eye for it. And I think we look back on some of our moments together, Akash. I remember when you were doing your bodybuilding competitions. We used to sit there in front of a mirror and we'd look at angles and we'd look at different ways of posing and how you could really accentuate your physique on stage.
Yeah, because there's a lot of poses people get put into during a photo shoot that actually don't suit their physique.
Exactly, and that's what it's all about, because and that's why it cannot be generic, because if say X person comes to a shoot and they've got amazing traps, we're going to be looking for shots that will accentuate that and really, really make you look, just make you look great. And then you'll get some guy that will have like amazing quads, and you really, really want to bring that to the party as well. So, when someone comes to a shoot, you can kind of assess their physique and see where, what are their best parts, and it's almost very, very similar to bodybuilding.
Yeah, and then what are you doing then? It's because you see, okay, this guy has, or this lady has a really strong body part. What is that? How does that change the course of the shoot? What are you doing differently?
Yeah, I mean,
how does it all kind of evolve over the next couple of hours?
It's a good question. I think first and foremost, when a client comes to a photo shoot, it is their experience and it's all about them. So when they do come, the first thing I ask them is, where do you see your strengths? Because you're the one who's kind of seen your physique change over the last 12 to 15 weeks or whatever it is. And I think it's really, really important to give people that opportunity to speak up and, give me their view. And from there, I kind of take them to the mirror and we look in the mirror. And we'll be able to tell, whether they've got, if they're a bit shorter, their legs might come out a bit more, or if they're a bit taller, perhaps, their shoulders might look great, or, things like that. And it's about those kind of small details that people, when they see their shots, they think, oh, wow, I didn't necessarily think about that before, or I didn't necessarily see it that way. So we go through kind of an analysis, and it doesn't even just happen on the day of the shoot. I've actually gone into the process now where before the shoot, I like to give the client a call and just see how they're feeling, because I think a fitness photo shoot for most people, the general population, it's going to be the first time they ever do it. And speaking from my own experience, it is nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
To step into a gym, without any clothes on, it's people feel anxious. And I think that's one of the, you asked me before, how did I get into it? I think that is one of the main parts of, the photo shoot, because you see how someone, it's almost a growth story in itself, when you're kind of in a photo shoot, because I can tell you, this is obviously very, very generic, but in the week before the photo shoot, most people will be very, very nervous. That is totally normal, because like I said before, who's going to step into a gym without any clothes? Not many people, right? And then you start to get into the whole process of the shoot itself, and you see someone changing. You see their feeling. You see how confident they're feeling. You see the excitement build up, and that is such an amazing part. It's an amazing feeling to be part of someone's journey like that on the day, and that's just one day. And then as the photo shoot carries on, you see someone just totally, their confidence grows. They have the excitement and they don't want it to stop. And then you see this euphoric moment as well. But it doesn't end there. At the end of the photo shoot, they've built their confidence. They've got excited. But it's not until they've almost seen the shots themselves they get even more excited. Yeah. So even after a week later, they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't even know I looked like that." Because no matter what people say, if you take a shot on your iPhone against a dirty mirror, you're not going to be able to see whether your abs look like this. But it's not until you do the shoot and you go through that that process of how your feelings develop. And I think it's just an amazing part. It's an amazing feeling to be part of someone's journey like that.
Yeah, I think a shoot just ups the ante for everyone, and it really is special because it marks that occasion for them. Because for most people, it's such a journey getting there. Like you've been at shoots where people have been working up to 18, 24 months just to get there.
Yeah.
And then to mark that memory is almost like a culmination of all that hard work into one shot.
Absolutely. Talking about that, specifically about that comment, if we use the analogy, right? I know I've been thinking about this the whole time, but if we look at the analogy, when you're at school, at university, and people are like, oh, I've worked so hard doing X, Y, and Z, I worked so hard doing that. And you know what? There's no way of telling how hard someone has actually worked on a task. Yeah. With a physique, it is totally different. If someone has lost 20 kilos, they have worked damn hard to do that. And there is no way you can cheat that process. And if someone comes up short or they need a couple extra weeks, so be it, that's fine. But you just know how hard someone has put into that physique. And you know what the photo shoot does as well? It creates that accountability. I know you talk about the why and you guys say on R&T a lot, but it is so true. And I speak from my own experience. 8 weeks out, people have read the case study. I was not ready. Yeah. And it's because I didn't have a why. I was just doing it for the sake of it. And then, Akash, every day he'd be on the phone and be like, let's do a shoot. I'd be like, come on. I'd look on the, like everyone, I'd look at the Instagram and see, come on, this is just for fitness professionals. This is not for the general population like me. And he convinced me and he persuaded me. And, to this day, I'm really grateful because I look back on those photos 2 years later and I think, wow, that is a memory that I've created and I want to almost better that a couple of years later. But yeah, sorry, I'm losing track of this. But
no, go ahead.
But it does create that. It does create that why, and at the end of the shoot, all the fruits of your labor, they're illustrated there. It's there in a shoot. No one can take that away from you.
Yeah, but I think rather than creating the why, I think it helps you channel your why, because your why is probably more than just a shoot. It just means that you've got to really connect your why in order to be able to come into the shoot looking good. You need to connect to that why and really put the pieces together in the lead up to it.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, the why is obviously different for a lot of people. For people struggling to get a why, maybe it can be your why,
Yeah.
But I think there are obviously deeper explanations as to why someone will, embark on a fitness transformation. But what it can do as well is that it can just, like you said, solidify that, and it makes you work. It might help you with the extra 5%.
Yeah.
And the way I like to see the photo shoot is like it's the icing on the cake almost.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Tell us your favorite part of the shoot, because you mentioned so many parts of there, like right from the lead up to it all the way to a couple of weeks later. What is your favorite bit of it all? There's so many moments that you could probably get carried away on.
Yeah. I mean,
what is your favorite bit?
The favorite part of the shoot, and I'm smiling as I say this because it happens all the time, and it's almost one of the best feelings. And it's difficult to describe, but it is genuinely the moment where someone looks at their back or their front on the camera for the first time.
Yeah.
On a DSLR camera, they see what they look like, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I did not think I looked like that."
Yeah.
And I think that not many things can match that.
Yeah, doing that right at the beginning as well. I know you like doing it right at the beginning, just to get that instant confidence. And you can just see the change like there and then, because it goes from the nervous, timid posing to all of a sudden, oh shit, I look like that.
Exactly.
And then they're suddenly flaunting their stuff everywhere.
And then
I'm the same. You've done the same as well, right?
Yeah, no,
we all know.
Yeah, and everyone goes through that process, because you know what? It's really strange, but people look at even my photos or they look at your photos, but people, at the end of the back of your mind, you're always thinking, I'm not quite there, or there's always that little bit of doubt. Yeah. And everyone always has that doubt, right? And I think until you see that photo, do you actually think, oh no, this is amazing. I've actually achieved something here. So I think, it's almost like it is an amazing feeling, but it almost gets rid of any doubt that you had, prior to the shoot, whether it's 1 week before or 2 weeks before. But yeah,
If you had to sum up what you do at Skot Visuals in one sentence, what would it be?
captures life-changing memories whilst bringing confidence to people.
Amazing. So now we've talked about Skot Visuals. Let's take it back a bit and talk about how you got into all of this in the first place. I know we've done a little bit on this in the previous podcast, but I think it'd be good to just refresh people, because ultimately your fitness journey was the reason why you now do photography.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the early days of it and how you got into training, and essentially what the last sort of 8 to 10 years has included.
It's interesting because
I was thinking this year is actually going to be about 10 years for me training.
Yeah.
I think 10 years. Maybe 11, but I think 10 years of proper training, because I started properly when I was 17 and then you started when you were 18.
Yeah. I think, it's an interesting one. I used to work part-time at Virgin Active. I was a lifeguard there, and I progressed to becoming a swimming teacher there. And I used to sit on that high chair that you get in a swimming pool. And I used to overlook the gym, used to overlook the pool. And I used to see all these guys up there, and I thought, I've got a free membership here, and I'm not really making the most of what I can make the most out of.
Yeah.
And I knew that Akash was really, really keen on it, but I never felt like that was me. When you're 18, you see especially when you're growing up. I used to play sports. I used to play cricket and rugby at school, and you think everyone kind of I'm not the kind of hench one at school. I'm the I do this. Everyone's kind of got their role, but you realize you can break that.
Yeah.
So I started training, and Akash, wrote me a plan, and I just, I still remember to this day, I do the plan. I wouldn't question it, because I knew that, he'd done his research, and
questionable research at the time.
Questionable research. I mean, we'll talk about this as well as we go on, but I remember, I used to then have my protein shake, and I wouldn't even be comfortable to shower in the men's changing room. I used to shower in the disabled changing room at the time, 10 years ago, because I just wasn't confident with the way I looked, and I remember, I think I started in August, September 2010, and then December 2010, so it must have been a couple of months, and I'd followed the program religiously, I didn't deviate from it, and I think I showed Akash a photo, and he was like, "Oh shit, man!" Like,
yeah.
Wow, you've actually done really well. And we didn't, I didn't send him any photos. We didn't, there was no kind of check-in process. It was kind of like he left me to my own devices, and we used to talk about it, but it wasn't, as formulaic, I guess, as it is now.
Yeah.
And then I remember we went suit shopping one time. Do you remember that? Marks and Spencer.
Yeah.
And he was changing. He was changing in the kind of changing rooms there. He was trying something on, and how everyone knows how the lighting is when you're trying things on. It's amazing, right? Because obviously that's just how they've set it up. And I was in my boxers, and it sounds very strange on here, but I think I walked in and I said, "Hey, look at my quads. They're got shreds in these quads." And he was like, "Oh shit!" And he's laughing now because you remember?
Yeah.
And that was, I just you remember these moments. And then I also did as part of my gap year, I was working in the city, and as my physique progressed that year, because this was on my gap year before I went to university. As my physique progressed that year, I was in the bathroom there, and sometimes the lighting in the toilets can be pretty good, right? And I remember I was just like, it was really hot, and I started to take my shirt off. I was like, shit, I've got abs now. And I remember taking a photo, and I sent it to Akash. He was like, and he how he gets more excited about transformations that doesn't involve him than you'd think. When he was excited, he was way more excited than I was. He was forwarding these pictures around him, and I was like, mate, you need to chill out now. So yeah, there's moments there, and I think like everyone, it almost starts because you're unhappy with the way you look, and that's totally fine for it to start off that way. I think as the years progressed, though, I think my motivations definitely changed. I got stronger as the process went on. Entered we entered powerlifting competitions, and I didn't overthink the process either. I just kind of got on with it. Went to the gym, loved it, spent the hour there. No distractions. But then, as I started work, I realized that this training is actually a great form of therapy as well. Some people meditate, some people like to go for a walk, but for me, it was about it's just detaching from the world for an hour or so. There was no Instagram, there was no Facebook, there was no WhatsApp. We're sitting here in this world, and we're almost we're inundated with all these distractions.
Yeah,
and I think that's what the gym's turned into, and I think it's almost a good lesson, because if it is all about the way you look, I don't think people do it for 10 years.
No, not at all. And also, you'd want to stay ripped all the time, and you will never want to improve your physique, and it'd just be about dieting all the time. And we know for both of us, it's never about that. It's never really about the way we look. It's the way we feel. It's what it gives us. Yeah. It's that void therapy sort of outlet that it provides that I haven't found anything that betters it or matches it. Like you said, some people find meditation, some people like walking, others have their own versions of therapy. Yeah. But for me, this is the best way to do it. There's nothing that compares to the moment just before you're about to do something crazy heavy and crazy intense, and then the period where it might last 30 seconds and then it's all over. But that 30 seconds before and 30 seconds during is just insane.
Yeah, exactly. And we've Akash and I have trained together, and he touches on a good point there, because you go through so many feelings in that one moment.
Yeah.
You go through that fear almost when you're going through like a big deadlift or a heavy leg press or a heavy squat or whatever it is, and it's that fear, and then when you complete it, it's that sense of accomplishment as well.
Yeah. But during the actual set, there's not much going on there. You're almost like nowhere.
You're totally focused on.
Yeah. This is a really good point I want to touch on, because when you started training, right, it's fair to say, like I've told you before, you were training like a pussy, right?
No, I'm going to cut him off here, and I'm going to say he actually wrote on one of my, I think, December 2012. I still remember it really well, because every time I go to the gym, it's always there. I can always hear his voice, and I can always see it written down on that piece of paper. Don't train like a pussy. Full stop. That's what he wrote in the email and on the plan. Don't train like a pussy. And you know what? It's a good lesson to a lot of people, because people want to grow muscle and they want to get stronger, but unless you up that training intensity, you may as well not bother.
The thing is, with fat loss, it's very easy, because as long as you train to maintain and you eat properly and you do cardio and your steps, you're going to lose body fat.
Yeah. But
the reason why people don't build a physique, and they end up, they always wonder why they're looking skinny and they don't build a physique, is because they haven't put the years in training like an animal. And it's something that can't be overstated, but you have to train with intensity over a long period of time, and you can't be going through the motions in your sets. You have to have that level of focused intensity during a set in order to be progressive over time and build muscle and build a physique ultimately.
I totally agree.
But talk about the process that you went from me writing that email to now bringing the intensity. Because now when I train with you, whenever we do get the chance to train, you always bring it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing I'd say is you've got to be patient, and you have to realize that it is a process.
Yeah.
I don't think you just
to learn intensity.
Yeah. I think it's this is another great thing about the gym that we touched on as well. It's the progression element as well, because progressive overload is almost like an analogy for life, right? Like you always say. Right?
Yeah.
And I think it really does apply to intensity too, because if you're lucky enough to have, done sort of intense sports when you were younger, you've developed that mentality over time. But I think for people that may not have played sports, or they didn't do anything competitively, I think you almost have to be patient. You almost have to think of every session you go into, see it as an opportunity to get better. And for me, it took a couple of years. And right now, if you want to train with me, I can tell you that I bring it 100%, right? And you know that, right? But yeah, I think the lessons, if we're gonna have a few points on lessons, is be patient, See every kind of even set as an opportunity to get better.
But let's touch on that though. So you said be patient in learning intensity, but what are you doing to practice the art of intensity? Because you can show up and get better, but still not bring the intensity into the set. Like, what are you doing before the set, during the set that is essentially bringing it?
Yeah, I mean,
like, what are you doing? Like, what's going through your head? How are you approaching it mentally? Because I can go through my own, but it'd be interesting to know your journey on this.
Yeah, I mean, let's use a deadlift as an example, right? Because it's a really, really good example, right? Yeah. And we did this in October last year where I deadlifted 220, right?
220 at 220. 70 kilo body weight.
Yeah, a 70 kilo body weight. And if I go through that process, I think it's always really, really important to visualize it first.
Yeah.
Visualize yourself lifting it. Because if you don't believe that you're going to lift it, you ain't going to lift it. So I think visualization is quite a good technique that I've learned.
Yeah, I used to use that a lot in the powerlifting days we used to run.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to think about, so if it was bench day on Monday, which it always was, then on Sunday night, I'd be thinking about that bench already. Like, I'm doing 120 for 1 or 2 reps. Okay, I'm going to picture it and imagine myself pausing that 120 on my chest and then pressing it.
Yeah.
So that when it happens in the gym, you've already done it. You've already done it in your head. You just need to execute it in real life.
That's it. That's what it is. It's the visualization and then the execution. So yeah, so let's talk through that deadlift. So I'd sit there and visualize it for a bit, and this comes back to the belief point. And again, it's an analogy for life, because if you don't believe something, you won't do it, right? So yeah, we visualize for a bit, and then it's almost like nothing else kind of matters. It's really difficult to describe it, but everything kind of goes black in the room.
Is this before the lift or during?
This is as they're about to approach it.
Yeah, okay.
Everything goes black in the room. There's all these distractions, and all these things you've got going on in your head, they've gone.
Yeah, all the bullshit disappears.
All the bullshit gone.
Yeah.
And there is just one goal that you have in your mind, and you're going to lift this weight off the bloody floor.
Yeah.
Then you go up. Then I approach the lift. And everyone's got their own way of doing a deadlift. For me, I literally just, it's a few deep breaths. You've seen me, right? A few deep breaths.
Dip and rip.
Dip and rip. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And I just, you almost feel like you're, it's like an otherworldly experience, because you don't feel like you're on Earth. It sounds really crazy, and I know it sounds a bit far-fetched, but you genuinely feel like
it's a bit of a psychedelic experience.
Yeah, it is exactly that. Then you lift it, and then afterwards you just your head, you're not really there, right? You're not really present. I remember after I did that, you guys were trying to talk to me, and I just wasn't really there. It takes you a while for it to.
But you probably were there. You're probably just so inside yourself.
That's it.
Yeah. So you actually are very, very present.
Yeah.
But just not present to the outer world. You're present to your inner world.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, you're just you're. It's almost just you in your mind. You in your mind. That's it.
But I think people only get this if you train. You have to train brutally hard and have almost like a fear before the set. If you don't fear the sets, you're not going to improve.
Yeah.
But I don't think this is another fair point. That this probably doesn't happen before every single set in the gym. Like, it's only your big lifts. Like, for me, it's about 4 to 6 sets per week. I get this feeling on, and if you did it every single set, you'd probably burn out, and it'd be overkill because you wouldn't enjoy it, because it'd be
you'd lose your mind, basically.
Yeah, it'd be too anxiety producing, right? But you have to have there's a few sets every week. For me, it's like the RDL, the hack squat, the floor press. I have a ritual for each one. Like, you have your own. I have the ritual for each one, and there's a period of that ritual where I go blank. So, like, for the RDL, it's like, when you see me do it, I hold on to the bar, and I'm like half bent over, and my right leg is shaking.
Yeah.
You remember when you see me do that, right? That's when I'm like going into another zone, and then it all kind of happens. And the same with the floor press, when the dumbbell's on my lap and I put my head into the dumbbell, the same thing there. So it's that moment that is what I crave when I train, which is why I don't like just training for the pump, because I don't get that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely important to caveat this conversation with we do not do this for lateral raises.
Yeah, you don't.
And I think you don't want to overthink it as well, because and that's what will happen if you try and do it for everything. You'll overthink it and you just won't enjoy it anymore.
Yeah, just for the big indicators.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think what's really important to for my own journey, and the experience that I want to say as well is that I was lucky enough to have some very, very good training partners too.
Yeah.
I've obviously trained with Akash. I trained with Minnow as well, and we'll talk about this another time, I guess, when Minnow was on. But we spent a good part of a summer training so hard, and I almost
you're the one that injured me, right?
He says this while he's laughing, but deep down he's very, very annoyed at me. I mean, and that's part of your growth story as well. I've trained with so many different people, and everyone is different.
Yeah.
Everyone is different. Everyone brings something different to the party, and all of those elements you can use, in your own experience.
Yeah, and just to give an example of that because you mentioned that injury, but obviously it was my fault, and it was brewing for a while. But just to give context of what we were doing at that time, before that set, I remember before that leg press set, I said to you guys, said to both of you, don't let me get off this thing. Like, push me all the way to 25 reps. So I think we're doing 25 rep sets, right? Push me all the way to 25 reps and don't let me get off. And you guys were there just screaming at me. I don't even know. I don't know what you guys were saying, but that was the point of what we were doing at that point.
I just remember slapping your leg many times and you just looking at me like, why are you doing this? Why are you slapping my legs?
You slapped my legs because I slapped your legs that time.
Yeah, I mean, we would, if every kind of big lift we were doing, we were really kind of pushing each other to the limit. And until you've done that,
you don't know what the limit is. Yeah. You have to go to the limit to know where it is.
Exactly. So I think, training partners is definitely a way. It's definitely a way in which that if you don't have that intensity, try and find someone that, you think trains with intensity, because that will help. If Akash is around, message him on Instagram and say, hey Akash,
let's start this.
Hey Akash, do you want to come? Can you come with me to the gym once? Because it's good to push yourself.
Yeah.
And people say this generically in life. I always push myself and things like that. But until you've done it with someone else as well, it can really, really help to improve you.
Yeah, and then you can carry that over to when you train yourself.
Exactly.
But it's being smart about it as well. Like, we should say that as well. Like you said earlier, you don't want to be doing this on lateral raises, but it's also just being smart generally. You got to also know your limits and you don't have to continuously hit those.
Oh yeah,
because then you're just going to burn out and probably get injured. But you also need to know when to step on the gas and when to pull back. But that comes with experience.
Exactly.
Like, you have to learn where the red line is to be able to make sure you don't cross it.
And that's training experience. Like for the first couple of years of my training, when I was squatting, I was basically squatting with my lower back, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know any better because I was so inexperienced when it came to training. And it's only over time, after just training experience and learning your body and understanding, what works for you and what doesn't. Akash will tell you he doesn't bench press and he doesn't do this, but that's not for everyone. I squat and I deadlift all the time, but that's because my body is different to his.
Yeah.
And over time, I've learned, what is working. When I'm doing a squat, I know my glutes and my quads are activated, not my lower back, which is what was happening for the first
And what did you change about that? What allowed you to know how to squat properly and know how to deadlift properly for your body type?
It's a good question. I think, first of all, like going back to basics and going back to an exercise and thinking, what am I actually meant to be gaining from this?
Yeah.
If I'm doing a squat, should the primary thing that I'm feeling right now be my lower back or my quads and my glutes? And this is another thing with progressive overload, and this is where you have to be careful, because if you have a logbook and you think, I want to get to 100, 110, 120, but it's coming at the expense of good form, that's where you need to stop and reevaluate and go back to, what it is you should be actually training here and what it is that you are looking to get out of that exercise. Because I think especially if you're new to the gym, you get those beginner's gains and it gets you really excited, and that's great. It is really great. But there will come a time where that will stop, and that's where you have to be careful with the injuries and and aspects like that, and you have to just stop, and just pause and reflect on what it is you're doing.
Yeah. So what did you change? If you take the squat, for example, what did you change about your squat that now allows you to squat regularly and feel your legs and ultimately grow your legs?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, when I used to first squat, I used to squat with a very narrow stance. And I used to basically do that because it allowed me to go lower, because I thought going lower was the way to go, because everyone used to always say go ass to grass. And if you don't go ass to grass, then you're not squatting properly.
Yeah, I mean, I was guilty of that.
Yeah, it's true, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is, for the majority of the population that sits at work every day, your hips are going to be so damn tight that if you go too low, you're not going to be working your glutes. You're not going to be recruiting anything that you should be recruiting. You are going to be bending your back to get it up.
We both did that for years, right?
Exactly. And I think what is, it's good to take general advice, and there is good general advice on things like squats, but everyone's body is so different. And that's what I've learned over time is that, and now what I do is, if we go back to the narrow stance, now I squat a little bit wider. I don't go as low, admittedly.
You stop at parallel.
I stop at parallel. I go for a wider stance. I really, really focus on getting my abs tight.
Yeah.
Because before I was guilty of thinking that, they just come, it just happened. You don't have to think about it, but you have to consciously think about those kinds of things, So those are what I've learned from just a squat, for example. And that's it's a big exercise for many people.
You've over the years, you've done a few diets, but for the most part, your goal has always been strength and muscle building. Why is that?
I think it's a good question, and it's something.
Why is that important?
Well, it's important firstly because progressive overload is going to be the one that builds your muscle, right? And I think it's important because if you want to get the physique that most people want to get, and not everyone wants to look like that, but some people after a transformation will think they look skinny, right? And after my first transformation, I looked skinny because I didn't have enough muscle.
Yeah.
And unless you're born with that muscle and you have the genetic makeup of the free, you're not going to have that muscle, especially for Asians, right? So after the first diet, I got really, really lean, and it was nice to see my abs. It was great, right? And I thought, like most people, I don't want to lose this. But then obviously Akash persuaded me, and as he always does, he's quite convincing, that guy. He was like, look, you need to get stronger. You need to keep, growing. You need to keep improving. And he's right. You do. And this is where the logbook and almost entering the powerlifting competitions came into it, because it gave me a different goal.
Yes, you focus completely on performance.
Completely on performance, completely on strength. And I'll tell you what, it is nice to have abs, but if you're a short guy like me, 5'6", and you're deadlifting 220 kilos, it's also for me, it's actually a better feeling.
Yeah.
It's actually a better feeling because not many other people can do that. And I think the fat loss, I'm not saying fat loss is easy, because it is not easy, but building muscle is hard.
I'd say it's way harder.
It is harder. And it's harder because you can't see the changes all the time. But this is where it's important to at least write down your progression and keep a logbook and almost keep a diary of, where you're doing. Because I still have mine, I still have my kind of training spreadsheets from 2011, 2012, 2013, where I was, deadlifting 100 kilos. And a good example is actually the flat dumbbell press. My first flat dumbbell press was 10 kilos.
Yeah.
I now flat dumbbell almost 50 kilos.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you doing at that? What are you doing at that?
47.5.
Yeah. So how many reps?
5 or 6.
Really?
Yeah. And he's surprised there because he's like, oh shit.
I thought you were only doing 44, 45.
Yeah.
That's a classic example of just focusing on strength for so long. And so when I said to you, okay, you need to build, how long were you building for?
So after my first transformation, I'd say I built for at least 3 years. And then I did another transformation, because it's always important to, I think, really focus on it and go 100% in it.
Yeah.
I think the mistakes I've made in my own journey was where I thought, oh, Akash, I need to get lean again. Like I need to look good and I need to see my abs again. But when you start flip flopping between the two, is where you get nowhere.
Yeah.
You don't see the benefits of the muscle building because you kind of go into this form of stasis where you're just lifting the same weights because you're not eating enough.
So true.
Right? And at the same time, because you're not in a calorie deficit, you're not really controlling what you're eating, you don't see your abs. So it's like you either go hard at one or you go hard at the other. There's no in between.
Yeah, you're just skinny fat.
With the caveat, of course, of after you've done your transformation, and what all your kind of coaches will tell you is that you don't want to overdo it so quickly.
I think the other caveat would be is that middle ground is fine for someone who's already built their physique. Like I've been pretty much in the last year in that middle ground. Like I'm not eating enough to build muscle, and until recently I wasn't really eating too little to go into a deficit. I was just maintaining. Yeah. But I spent 10 years building, so it doesn't matter. Like I'm not unhappy with my size. But if you want to build size, or you want to, for women who want to build more shape, they want to get more tone, anyone who needs to build muscle, there has to be that period of time where, you might have to skip a couple of holidays where you're not looking at your best.
Exactly. And
there might have to be a few holidays where, you're okay with being a bit fluffy because the long-term goal is that you're going to be in much, much better shape.
Exactly. And you touch on something very, very important there. You've done it for 10 years. You've built your foundation.
Yeah, building foundation is huge.
You've built the foundation. And I can tell you right now that if you can shoulder press, what was Elliot doing, 45?
Yeah.
When he diets down, his shoulders are going to... Is it Elliot that does
Yes,
things?
Elliot, yeah.
I think I saw something like 45. His shoulders are going to look better than someone who...
Yeah, his delts are already coming out. Yeah.
His shoulders are going to look better than someone
that's pressing 30s.
And it's the muscle maturity. When you see someone's back who can deadlift 200 kilos or who can, row 100 or whatever it is, that muscle maturity will come through when you've done your transformation.
The good thing about muscle maturity as well is there's also something to be said for just doing the reps over years with that weight. So even if, like for example, I've been pressing I haven't really gone over 50 kilos on the pressing now, but because I've been pressing the 50s for a couple of years now, there's that maturity that looks so... You say if I don't get that much stronger in 2 years, but I'm still pressing the 50s every week, there's a maturity that will look on the muscle when it's lean that you can't get from someone who's just pressed the 50s once.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. And I think as well is that people, and I made the mistake before, is that progressive overload doesn't just equal more weight.
No.
And it's like exactly what you say. Yeah, you've been doing the 50s over time, but you've probably improved your technique on those 50s as well, right?
Yeah, it's 50s with a pause, it's 50s with a controlled eccentric, it's 50s feeling the muscle.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Like you can do the 50s and move the 50s, or you can feel the 50s.
That's it. And that's another thing that, from my own journey, I couldn't agree more with, because I was literally moving the weight from A to B when I first started because I knew no better. When you're inexperienced, like, your body, and you can read all you want, you can listen to 100 podcasts but unless you've experienced and you feel it yourself, that is the best. I think that is almost the best way to learn.
I think these lessons here are so critical because when you look at Shyam's before and after picture that we did in 2017, the reason why his after picture was so impactful is because he had a foundation, and all of that foundation came from intensity, came from building muscle, came from years spent focusing on strength, and not continuously chasing another diet, not continuously looking after his abs. And of course, it depends on the phase of life you're in. If you're in your 40s, you probably just want to keep onto your abs and you want to look good and have that lifestyle. But at the same time, if you want to build, you have to know that there is a compromise you have to make, and you can't just sit in that middle ground because then you're going to be stuck in a gray zone where you don't look better lean wise, and you don't build any substantial strength or muscle.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also important to recognize that when you are in that muscle building phase, like when you go for a shower or you go for a walk, sometimes you do feel sluggish and sometimes you don't look great, but you have to keep reminding yourself that there is a longer goal here. It's not just, it's not just about seeing a six pack, because it's great to see that six pack, but I can tell you right now that even my abs, right? For example, when I first started, my abs weren't even developed, and then when it came to the third transformation, God, it was, you could see the change.
Because you built muscle in your abs.
You built muscle there too.
Yeah. Why is it so important to keep accountability in these long-term muscle building phases? Because it's so easy to lose focus. It's so easy to kind of end up just spinning your wheels. how have you stayed so motivated for a long period of time and stayed accountable to yourself and others in order to keep progressing and making sure that by the end you've actually made progress as opposed to not?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, I've lost focus many times, many times. And those are the times when I thought I could do this myself. Because when you're going through the fat loss phase, I think I've done it for 10 years and I think you still need a coach. I think even Akash and all these guys at R&T, all the coaches have coaches, right? And I think that's really important. I think week by week everyone sees changes. You lose a kilo, you're happy. You go to the next week, you lose another kilo. You can see the changes when you have a shower or, go for a walk or whatever it is. And I made the mistake in the muscle building phase of thinking, oh, I can do this myself. I can just, I just have to eat, 100 calories every week or extra and train harder. But you know what? It doesn't quite work like that, because that's where I've kind of spun my wheels a bit, because when you're accountable to a coach in the muscle building phase, they can tell you, this week I think maybe 50 calories, or let's just keep it. Let's stay here. Let's stay in this position for 2 more weeks because you're going on holiday or you've got a work event. So I think I struggled in that regard, but
it's also the programming aspect of it and the performance indicators and dialing in your form and making sure you're feeling the muscle, and it's all these other things where training becomes so much more important than nutrition.
100%. And you touch on a good point there, because when it comes to training, for example, when I try to do it myself, I think, oh, everyone tells me on Instagram, everyone tells me when I Google it, you've got to change your program every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
To see changes, you've got to change it every 6 weeks. When I had the coach, it got frustrating as well. I used to get annoyed. I'd be like, no, just keep it the same. And you think, I'm paying these guys, why are they not telling me to change the bloody program? But my best gains came when I kept it the same for years.
Because it was working for you, right?
Because it was working.
Yeah. Every week there was progress.
Exactly.
And then towards the end you said, I want to keep it.
Exactly.
I think I offered to change it, and you were like, "No, I don't want to change it."
I don't want to change it because for 2 years, every week I was getting better. I'm not saying I was getting better in terms of lifting more weight, but my technique was getting better, or I was slowing the rep down, feeling the muscle more, and I was constantly improving. I was making progress.
Yeah.
And I think if I tried to do that myself, I would have been like, I'd almost try and overthink it and question everything, and you just want to outsource that decision to somebody else, really.
Yeah, less decision fatigue.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying this training talk, actually, because we haven't done much of it. I haven't really spoken about training this much in a while, and it's fun. But one thing I want to touch on is the nutrition side of things, because from what I know, this is where you struggle more. Like, training now has become very habitual for you. Like, it's part of your daily routine. You said before, it's like your meditation, your therapy. What about nutrition? Like, how have you managed to find your balance with nutrition? Because that's, if I could say so, is your weakness.
Absolute weakness. And I think from speaking to my coach Nathan and just talking to people generally,
he switched from me to Nathan now.
Yeah, just to get a different outlook on things. But I think some habits that you form as a child, just psychologically, they don't just go in an instant, They stay with you for a long time. And I think that's, I'm not making excuses here, but I almost think that it stayed with me a little bit, because for me, and I compare this to my brother, who's like the total opposite, when I was growing up, it would be normal to eat like X or, 6 or 7 biscuits with a cup of tea. And it's almost like it's stayed with me a little bit. When I do a fat loss phase, for example, when it comes to nutrition, I have an all or nothing personality, so I just go into it 100%, and I don't cheat at all. And the first diet, second diet, I rebounded quite badly.
Yeah.
And I put my finger on it. I think it's just a real lack of discipline on my part, really, But it's also, you've kind of held your body back. That's what you do when you diet, right? You hold your body back with so many things that you crave. And for me, what I've learned, actually, just working with Nathan, is one thing I'm guilty of is eating too quickly. And it sounds really, really basic, but when you eat too quickly, you don't feel full, right? You just think, I need to keep shoveling stuff into my mouth, and you're not actually using your palate at all. You're just shoveling things. And I think for me, small things like keeping hydrated and slowing the way I chew, and that's actually how improved me. But consciously thinking about it, because I don't think many people consciously think about when they eat food. They just shove it down their mouth and that's it.
Would you say though you're at the phase now where no matter what you do, your basic habits are always there? So for example, protein at each meal, veggies, and it's more the things on top that you struggle with? Or do you feel like that foundation is still solidifying?
I think it's a good question. I think when you go to the gym and you do it 4 times a week, 5 times a week, whatever it is, I think naturally you're always thinking about, well, I do anyway. I think I'm putting so much effort into the gym. My foundation needs to be there, in terms of nutrition. It needs to be there. I think what I struggle with sometimes is thinking, especially in a muscle building phase, it's only one biscuit here and there. That's what it is, right? It's calorie surplus, right? Calorie surplus.
Yeah.
It's okay if I go for a nice meal out. I'm in a calorie surplus, whatever.
Yeah. Bulking, bro, sort of thing.
Bulking. Like, it doesn't matter, it'll resolve itself anyway one day. And I think you can get carried away. I get carried away. I really do get carried away. And it's a process. I'm not there yet. I'm still not there yet. I think I'm still learning about myself and learning what, things that I can do to be better at it. Because I think it's almost something that I've grown up with, Psychologically, I think when I was a child, I didn't manage it that well.
Why was it different between you and your brother?
That's a good question. I think he was probably more active than I was as a kid.
That reflected his nutrition habits?
I think so.
Yeah,
I really do think so. I think, I would literally just walk, I remember sometimes I'd be slumped watching TV and sitting there eating biscuits on the sofa. Whereas he'd kind of be in the park a bit more and being more active. And I think when you're more active, I think it gives you that, in terms of your mindset and your outlook, and, you feel you have the energy and you feel excited. And I think that's, stayed with me a little bit. But I think the more I train, the more intensely I train, and the gym has definitely helped with that.
You mentioned at the beginning how you were changing in the disabled toilets, feeling very low about your body confidence and body image. How has that evolved over the past 10 years and especially more recently?
I think, look, if we're talking about that story, it was, I'd put a towel around, I put a towel around blazers. You didn't even think you could put a towel around, because I was just so embarrassed about the way I looked. Over time, obviously that's progressed, and now I'm happy with the way I look. There is always going to be a part of you that thinks you want to keep growing and progressing. You're never going to be totally satisfied.
Yeah,
you're never going to be totally satisfied, and that's something to learn, I think, and reflect on, because you don't want that to become a negative. I see it as a positive. I don't see it as a negative, that not being satisfied. Actually, I see it as something I can, because it makes me still want to go to the gym. It makes me still want to get better at my lifts.
Would you say your body confidence or body image issues have resolved, or for the most part? I mean, for everyone, for example, I started for similar reasons, insecure with how I looked, man boobs and a pot belly, the same sort of story. And there'll always be that little bit in your head. Yeah. But for the most part, I don't mind now. I'm okay with taking top off anywhere.
Yeah.
Has that improved or for yourself?
Yeah.
Because I know now you love taking. Every time you go away, there's about 50 photos that your girlfriend's taken of you. So you.
That's only because I have to take 100 of her. So. Shweta, I know you're probably listening to this. So that's true, isn't it? No, it's definitely improved. There is always going to be a lingering kind of, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, you still remember those moments.
Yeah.
Of course you still remember those moments. But it's almost like, shit, look how much I've progressed. I used to be that weak little, Indian guy at school that when I used to play rugby, everyone used to push me over, Now I'm not that guy anymore. So it's the confidence. And I think one really, really underrated aspect of a body transformation that I really do want to emphasize is the confidence that it brings to all areas of your life. I used to be so shy when it came to public speaking or just talking to strangers. And Akash knew me as a kid. So I remember one time we were somewhere and he goes, oh, you've never done that before. Just like talking to random strangers when I go on holiday or, just being a bit more assertive when it comes to things, and standing up for almost what you believe in a bit more. But I think for me, one aspect where it really, really changed me was public speaking. I used to, and like most people, I still don't believe no one's 100% confident when it comes to public speaking. No. There's always going to be, you're always going to be a little bit nervous, and that's totally fine. That's human nature, right? But I think what it can do is that it gives you the confidence to at least put your hand up and just do it. And I think that's what it does. It gives you that confidence to put your hand up for things that you wouldn't necessarily have done before.
Yeah, spot on.
And get out of your comfort zone. Since doing the body transformations, I've done so many different things in my life that I might not have done before, like climbing Kilimanjaro and things like that. I would have thought, I'm not fit enough to do that. That's for somebody else to do. That's for that guy across the road who looks great, keeps himself fit.
Yeah.
But it's that confidence it brings to you.
Yeah, I think you've also said that one of the biggest game changers has been job interviews for you.
Oh, massively. Because what comes with a body transformation and what we touched on earlier is you can't cheat that process, right? Discipline, commitment, focus. That you can apply to any job you do, any career you do. If you do that well in a body transformation, you can bring that across to what you do for a career. Yeah. And I think when people ask me when I'm at work and they say, you're getting a bit distracted, I always think to myself, what do I do in that hour at the gym? I don't get distracted because I'm focused there. So I try and bring that focus that I have in the gym to what I do at work. Yeah. And I think that's a real key message about this, because you can bring so many aspects of that to your career, to your relationships as well. That's another thing. It's your relationships as well. I'm lucky enough to have a girlfriend that also loves going to the gym. And for us, it's like it's a mutual hobby now. It gives you that positive frame of mind and just a positive outlook on life, That's what it does.
Spot on. Do you have any tips for people at the start of their journey?
Yeah, I do. I think don't overthink the process. Trust your coach, because that's what I did. I didn't know that much about training. I didn't know that much about training. And you're hiring someone who knows more than you. And when you hire someone that knows more than you, you have to throw yourself in 100% and trust them. Trust the process. That's what I would say.
Amazing. Before we wrap up, just before the podcast, we put up on the group some questions for Shyam. So some rapid fire questions from the R&T family. So we're going to run through these, which we'll do now. Okay, so the first question is from Rushab, and we've covered some of this already, but it's actually come up twice. So the first question is, what was your why? I think he's referring to the 2017 transformation. He said, what was your why? Your transformation, hands down, is the best one yet.
Oh, that's a nice compliment. I think it's an important question to answer, actually, and to address. For me, it was, I'd started working, and all those socials and all that networking, which I do enjoy. I love talking to people, as you can imagine. And I think I'd almost lost track and lost focus. And for me, it was almost an opportunity to realign what my priorities were. So it was important for me I didn't even look like I went to the gym anymore, And for someone that literally goes to the gym, I go to with my brother, right? And we train hard. And I was training hard, but my nutrition wasn't on point. And I was like, I'm killing myself here. I don't even look like I go to the gym anymore. Yeah. So for me, my why was almost like I mean, I need to express this in a concise way, but it was almost like going back to basics and, just understanding why I was going to the gym, I guess.
Yeah, I think realigning the priorities was a really good one. There. Bring the focus back to yourself.
Bring the focus back. Yeah. Bring the focus back. I probably haven't answered that very well, but I think that's a way to sum it up.
Yeah. One from Jemmy. What is his biggest pet peeve on photo shoots? And what is the one thing he wish he knew when he started taking photos? So there's 2 questions there. First one, what is his biggest pet peeve on photo shoots?
Pet peeve is when I usually have a call with like clients before, and we talk about tan, and I was like this myself, and I always say to people, I'm always like, get the darkest tan because it comes out great in photos. And people are always like, no, I don't want to get the darkest tan. I'm gonna look stupid. I'm gonna look like one of those guys in like The Only Way is Essex or whatever it's called, or Love Island. And then they get to the shoot and they're like, oh damn, I wish I got the dark tan, because it looks better under the lights and everything. So I think that's probably my biggest pet peeve. One thing I knew about the before I did the shoot was, that's a good question. Let me think about that. It's almost like it's actually not as complicated as people make it out to be. And it's actually more about, this is important, it's more about the person that you're doing the shoot with than all the technical aspects of the photography. It's more about making it an experience for them rather than worrying about where the light should go or how to edit photos and all that sort of thing.
And just to follow up from me, what is the one thing you're learning about now that you're most trying to make improvements on in your photography?
It's a good question. I think I'm actually, for me, the fitness eye is just there naturally. I think for me, photography itself is a skill that I'm looking to get better at. And I think it's almost actually the easier part of it. Because having the eye is something that comes with 10 years of experience, Whereas the photography skills, it's all about me, and it's all about how I can, read more and watch more and kind of just throw myself in. And that's what I'm doing.
Message from Sunil. When's your next shoot? And who will be taking the pics for it? This is for you. When's your next shoot?
That's, initially I was actually going to do, I was going to do it with these guys in September. But you know what? My why wasn't actually strong enough then. I was talking to Akash about this before, and he's doing it, and one of my other friends from school, Minnow, is also doing it, and they both look, Minnow especially, sorry Akash mate, Minnow is looking really, really good, and he's going to look great for the shoot.
Don't blow his head up even more there.
But I'm sure you guys have seen it on social media, and you will see it. But my why wasn't really strong enough to do it in September. I think at the moment I'm enjoying my training. I'm getting stronger each week, and my techniques are improving still. So I think maybe in 2020. 2020 is a good year. Sounds good as well, isn't it? 3 years as well from 2020.
2020 will also mark 10 years of training.
10 years of, exactly, yeah. 10 years, there you go. Yeah. 10 years of training, and also 3 years from the last shoot. I think that's a good amount of time as well to build muscle.
Well. Yeah, I would have done the same, but this just came out a good time. Yeah. Another one is someone else has asked, what's your why? But maybe we can relate this to what's your why now? Or I'm actually
answer that and say what's my why in terms of photo shoots and doing photo shoots. And I think you know what it is. It's almost like, it's like I said, it's the icing on the cake for somebody, but it's also just being part of someone's like growth story. Because it sounds strange, but when you're there and you see someone so confident and so excited, and that's what I want to keep doing. I want to keep helping people grow their confidence through a shoot, and also just make sure they capture those lifelong memories. And that is my why.
What's been the most emotional shoot you've been part of?
I'm not going to name names. That would be unfair. But it was a 50-year-old guy and his wife.
Okay, yeah.
And this is incredible. I'm 26.
Yeah.
I have no, I have responsibilities, but I don't have the responsibilities that a 40 or 50-year-old would have, right? So that's why when I'm doing shoots with these guys, I'm like, I'm almost like even more in awe of these guys. I mean, I'm in awe, when I see how much work they've put in, despite looking after kids and, keeping, looking after their elderly parents and that sort of thing. And there was one shoot in particular, the guy, he came in, he was so nervous, really, really nervous. And you could feel it,
Yeah.
And that's totally natural, totally natural. This is I look at my 50-year-old relatives and I think, they're not going to do a bloody photo shoot. And this guy did it. And he lost so much weight. He must have lost at least 10 to 15 kilos. Probably more. And I'm sorry if I've got that wrong. And he was really, really nervous. And then he just grew. He grew so much throughout the shoot. And it was so rewarding to be part of something, that experience. There were some tears involved as well. And his wife was there, and she'd support him throughout the journey. And that's actually really important, actually. At my shoots, I really do encourage that. The people that have helped you throughout the journey. I mean, your coach will be there, which is one thing that R&T do, which I think is quite important. But also, if you have any wives, girlfriends, or boyfriends, husbands, bring them along. For me, it's not a distraction. For some photographers, it's a distraction. For me, it's not. I think it's really, really important that you have the people that supported you there. But anyway, back to the story. I'm digressing. And I remember at the end, he just didn't want the photo shoot to end. I was like, we've been here for 2.5 hours. We need to, you must be hungry now, you've worked hard for this. And even to this day, he invited me to his birthday party, his barbecue. And it was, unfortunately I can't make it, but he, to be a part of someone's journey like that there's not many other better feelings in life.
Amazing. One more question from Bavi. When are you going to check in with Nathan?
Oh, Nathan.
I'm not sure how she knows that.
Nathan, if you're listening to this, I'm going to give you a call very soon. It's a good question.
Brilliant. What do you? Just a couple more rapid fires for me. What are you most looking forward to for the rest of 2019?
Well, we've got a website coming out, Skot Visuals.
Yep. What's the handle going to be? Skotvisuals.com?
Skotvisuals.com.
Well, hopefully that can be released with this podcast, so we can drop it at the same time.
Got a new logo coming as well. But the thing I'm most looking forward to actually is I'm doing a volunteering experience in Cambodia.
Yep.
Where we're helping to build a school there. So I do enjoy those kind of experiences. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. Well, once Minnow does his transformation, I don't think you need to ask him. He's probably
he's already pitching it to me.
Oh, he's probably
a vegan doctor.
Yeah, he's vegan, and he actually, here's this funny story. We were at Honest Burgers. There's 6 of us. There's 5 of us. Sorry, 5 of us. He was the only vegan at the table. The rest of us.
But just to say, he was a vegan and he was wearing a plant-based T-shirt as well.
A plant-based T-shirt.
You said plant-based over it, just to remind everyone as well.
If you don't know who Minnow is, you guys will know who Minnow is by the end of this transformation. But anyway, going back to the story, he was like, I'm going to get this. They have this vegan burger at Honest Burgers. And then the 4 of us were all carnivores. And I think one of us were like, yeah, we'll just try it for Minnow. And all 5 of us got a vegan burger. And he didn't even have to convince us.
Yeah, we'll bring him on the podcast in a couple of months to go through his journey as transitioning into veganism and being a doctor as well. So it'll be an interesting story. And then we should do one with us 3 as well. I think that'll be a really cool one. We could just talk about the memories that we've been through. Actually, I've got a couple more questions. What's the dumbest piece of nutrition advice I've given you?
He's sitting here smiling at me.
Because I've basically used them as a guinea pig over the last 10 years. So what's the craziest nutrition thing, or the thing you look back on and think, what was I even telling you?
I can literally. Oh my god! Okay, let's
one nutrition.
No. I'm not gonna limit this at one. I'm gonna tell you some of the stuff that I had to go through in my journey. And all of you listening to this, he's refined the process so well that you don't have to do this. Let's start out. So when I was changing in disabled changing room and I was finishing, he'd be like, why don't you blend your unflavored whey protein? If you haven't tried unflavored whey protein, it is disgusting. So the unflavored whey, and he'd be like, oh, blend it with a banana, but blend it like 3 hours before. So it used to sit there in my bag, all warm and stuff. I'd have this warm, unflavored whey shake, that'd been blended with a banana. It was disgusting. And then we found out that something, I think a couple of years down the line, he'd be like, you know what? I think, if you leave whey for that long, I think it denatures. So I don't think it was actually having any impact. I mean, he might caveat it with something else now.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that. Yeah.
Okay. And then he'd be like, oh, throughout your workout, drink these BCAAs, the branched chain amino acids, because, then you won't break down any muscle, throughout your sets. And we'd have, he'd be like, no, but you don't need the sugars from the flavored ones. So don't have the cola ones, the ones that obviously taste nicer. Have the unflavored ones. Oh my God, that was almost more demanding than the workout itself.
Unflavored amino acids are disgusting. Leucine, you've tried leucine, right?
Oh.
Leucine alone, that's one of the worst things you can eat or drink. It's disgusting. It's like battery acid.
Disgusting. And I can think of numerous countless stupid things that we've done. We went on holiday one time. To Morocco. 4 of us, me, Akash, and then 2 of our other friends, Jay and Amma. And obviously that was like, we went to an all-inclusive. And I brought my fish oil along. And you remember this, right? And we were having the desserts. And to limit the blood sugar effect of these cakes or sweets or whatever we were eating, me and Akash would eat these cakes, right, in the restaurant, right? Then we would sprint back to the hotel room and have a spoonful of fish oil to limit the blood sugar effect. This is a true story. This is actually a true story. And then even at university, I remember, I used to do like these really horrific workouts with my mate Dino. We'd do like 10 by 10 on squats and like really, really tough workouts. But I could be like, you don't deserve the carbs. You need to be like 90 kilos and ripped to have carbs. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I'd literally just be having like proteins and fats the whole day, and I could not walk. Like we were literally struggling to walk up the stairs. I'd always be hobbling. The DOMs were just insane. So those are the other ones. I'm trying to think. There's definitely more.
We'll have to save that for a podcast in itself. When we
Yeah.
get Millen on, he'll come up with all the gold. But I remember that fish oil one. That was a bit crazy, wasn't it? I was doing that for a while. Anytime I'd eat something a bit sweet or too sugary, I thought that would counter it all. Little did I know, that was actually adding more fat to the plan.
Exactly. The fish oil one is just, I remember that. And then it would just be like all these anecdotes that just didn't, like, when you look back on it just didn't make any sense. And because I didn't know that much, now obviously I educate myself way more than that. So if it comes across as I was just totally ignorant, I probably was at the time. Now it's just like now because I'm so experienced, I do question it a bit more. So when he comes out with an anecdote like, you can't do this or you can't do X, I'm like, come on, show me the research, mate, because I have done some stupid shit over the past 10 years
at my expense and benefit.
Yeah, and then because through me as a vehicle, when I've trained with other people at university, they've obviously had that impact of it as well. So like my other mate Dino, he's gone through that too. I mean, I remember because here's another good one. Here's another.
Need to bring him on.
No. Here's another good one actually. So me, Dino, and my friend Gaj as well. We were on the proteins and fats diet. The one with no carbs. Yeah, the one with no carbs. And Akash was like, yeah, you can have other. Just have a high fat. And I used to have. When you go to the supermarket and there's that milk. There's that milk in the aisle that just looks amazing. They package it amazingly, and it just looks so appealing. Like the real creamy milk.
Yeah.
And I used to make these guys drink that with everything. We'd have the cream. We'd have half a cup of coffee, but with half a cup of cream inside that coffee. And to this day, because of that, my friend Gaj is now lactose intolerant. They cannot tolerate any lactose.
Well, the thing is, that probably came from me. I'm the same now. I can't really have much lactose either now. Because I remember I was doing the gallon of milk a day, remember? I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
When I was at school, I used to sneak out at lunch break to get the full fat milk just to drink it. Yeah, we've done some silly stuff. But I think it's all come. Yeah, I don't think without all of the silly stuff, we'd have the R&T journey as we do now. Because you have to go through all of that, all those mistakes and all those stupid learnings in order to get to where we are now. So while it probably wasn't fun at the time, it's all I see all the benefits now.
Oh, that's what I mean. You mean, through those experiences.
I think you've educated yourself through that as well.
100%. 100%. I mean, you've been able to refine the process so well that it's to the benefit of everyone else. Yeah. So that's the way I see it. I almost see it myself as
you were a sacrifice.
I sacrificed myself for you guys, and now I cannot eat cheese.
Perfect. How can people find you or find out more about Skot Visuals if they want to book in a shoot?
Yeah, so once the website's up and running, you'll be able to contact me through that. But for the time being, have a look at my Instagram page at Skot Visuals. Send me a DM, or you can give me a call. If you want to talk through your photo shoot experience, I'd love to jump on a call with you and talk about how we can make your experience a memorable one.
Amazing. Any parting words?
Listen to your coach, trust the process, and see the fruits of your labor in a photo shoot.
Amazing. If you enjoyed today's episode with Shyam and you know other people who can relate to his experiences, especially with training and the progression made over the last decade, please share it with your family and friends. For more information, please visit www.rntfitness.com and follow us on Instagram at rnt_fitness. Thanks for listening.